Honestly, if I look at another piece of Brazil, I think I'm gonna need a paramedic. Ma is trying to kill us, I swear.
Yeah.
She made enough food for a battalion, not, a family dinner.
She's not trying to kill you, she's trying to fortify you. You look thin.
I'm not thin.
And with the week you just had and the year you're about to have, you need the protein. Drink this.
No thanks.
Black. No sugar. It'll put some steel in your spine.
I'm good, seriously. My heart rate is already high enough. I finally got the clear to close on the Miller file.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but the underwriter made me sweat blood for 3 days over a large deposit from their wedding money. I don't need the caffeine, I need a coma.
A large deposit.
Yeah.
That's what kept you up. That's what has you sighing at the dinner table.
It was a nightmare.
Look at me. You're sweating over a bank statement from a newlywed couple while the entire financial architecture of the Western world is being completely rewired.
Okay,
You're looking at the anthill while the volcano is erupting behind you.
here we go.
Hmm.
I knew you were too quiet during dinner.
I was enjoying the food.
You barely argued with Pop about the Giants. You've been checking your phone under the table since the antipasto. What is it? The 10-year yield.
What about it?
I saw it spike to 4.26% on February 1st, but, rates bounce around.
You saw it spiked. That's cute.
What?
The 10-year didn't just spike. The bond market is screaming.
Screaming what?
It is pricing in a complete regime change, and nobody on CNBC is telling you the truth because they're too busy selling the soft landing fairy tale to the retail public.
So it's not a soft landing.
We are not in a soft landing. We are in the Warsh era now. And if you don't understand what that means before you unlock your office door tomorrow morning, you are going to get run over.
Okay. I saw the headline. President Trump nominated Kevin Warsh on January 30th. I know the name.
Good.
I know he's a hawk. I know the market got a little spooked. But regime change, isn't that a bit dramatic? He's just a Fed chair.
Just a Fed chair.
Yeah. He replaces Powell. He raises rates maybe a quarter point. Life goes on. We've seen new chairs before. This isn't, the end of the world.
See, that right there, that is the retail narrative.
What do you mean retail narrative?
That is what the 6 o'clock news tells you, so you keep buying stocks and believing everything is fine. Just another guy in a suit. You need to understand something fundamental, and I need you to listen closely.
I'm listening.
Kevin Warsh is not an economist.
Yeah.
He is not Janet Yellen. He is not Ben Bernanke. He isn't a PhD who spent 30 years in a library staring at theoretical models of supply and demand.
He's a lawyer, right?
My God.
And a banker for Morgan Stanley.
He's a lawyer, he's a banker, he's an institutional reformer, and more importantly, he is the anti-Powell. For 20 years, the Federal Reserve has operated on a specific unspoken philosophy, the Fed put.
Right.
You know what that is, right? They taught you that in your licensing class.
Yeah, basically the idea that if the stock market crashes or, things get too rocky, the Fed will step in and save it.
Yeah.
Cut rates, print money, grease the wheels. It's the safety net.
Exactly. It's the safety net. It's why Wall Street takes massive risks, because they know Daddy Fed will bail them out if they fall. Kevin Warsh. He explicitly, publicly, and violently hates the Fed put.
Violently.
He believes it creates moral hazard. He believes that if you make a bad bet, you should lose your shirt, not get a bailout. He looks at the Fed's balance sheet, trillions and trillions of dollars of debt, and he doesn't see a tool.
He sees a problem.
He sees a disaster that needs to be fixed now, not later. So when he got the nomination on January 30th, the bond traders, the guys who actually run the world, they didn't just see a personnel change.
They saw the safety net being set on fire.
Gone. They realized the whole game has changed.
So the volatility we saw this week, the massive sell-off in bonds,
Yeah.
that's the market realizing they're on their own, the training wheels are off.
It's the market realizing that data dependence is dead.
What do you mean? Powell always says we're data dependent.
Powell was data dependent. He'd wait for the inflation report, look at the backward-looking numbers, and then maybe, just maybe, make a move. Warsh is strategic. He has an agenda. He wants sound money.
Sound money, like the gold standard kind of talk.
Not that far, but in that direction. He isn't going to wait for a CPI print to tell him the government is spending too much money. He already knows it. He's not going to react. He's going to act.
Okay, but wait, backtrack a second. I heard there was a massive fight inside the White House about this. It wasn't a sure thing.
A sure thing. It was a war.
A war?
A war. The war of the two Kevins. This is crucial context for understanding where we're going. For weeks, the administration was torn between two completely different visions of the future.
And both were named Kevin.
Both were named Kevin. On one side, you had Kevin Hassett.
I remember that name.
He's the loyalist of. He was the guy promising the president he would cut rates, juice the economy, make everything look great for the midterms.
The easy money path.
Easy money. A sugar high. Exactly what politicians usually want. They want the stock market at all-time highs and people feeling rich. Usually. But then you have Kevin Warsh, the institutional reformer. He walked into that interview and likely said, "Mr. President, if you go with easy money, inflation will return with a vengeance and eat your legacy alive."
Oof.
He probably said, "You need scarce reserves. You need hard money to break the back of this debt cycle." And the fact that Warsh won?
Yeah.
That is the signal. That is the whole story. The administration just rejected the easy path. They chose the hard path.
Which means high rates. For a long time.
It means the era of free money is officially, finally dead. Scarce reserves is the new doctrine. But it gets worse.
How does it get worse?
It's not just about Warsh coming in. It's about how Powell is going out. You saw the subpoena news from January 25th.
The DOJ thing, yeah, I saw that scroll across the bottom of the screen. Something about renovation costs at the Fed headquarters. I honestly scrolled past it. It sounded like petty bureaucracy.
Renovation costs. Please, you don't send the Department of Justice to subpoena the sitting chairman of the Federal Reserve over drywall and carpeting.
So what is it then?
That is a hit job. That is a political hardball of the highest order. It's a nuclear weapon deployed in the institutional world.
They're trying to force him out.
They are trying to force him to resign before his term ends in May. Make a clean break.
But Powell is fighting it, right? He's not just rolling over.
Tooth and nail. He's calling it a politically motivated attack. He's digging in. But think about what this looks like to the rest of the world.
Wow, so?
Put yourself in the shoes of a Japanese pension fund manager or a Saudi sovereign wealth fund. You park your billions and billions of dollars in U.S. treasuries because America is supposed to be the stable adult in the room.
The safe harbor.
The safest of safe harbors.
Yeah.
Now, you turn on Bloomberg and you see the Department of Justice investigating the central bank chair, while a sitting senator is holding the entire nomination process hostage.
Wait, Tillis is blocking it. I missed that part.
Senator Thom Tillis. He issued an ultimatum on February 2nd. Flat out said he will oppose any new nominee, including Warsh, until this Powell investigation is fully and transparently resolved.
So we have a standoff. A confirmation battle?
We have gridlock. We have chaos. You've got Elizabeth Warren on the left vowing to block Warsh because he likes banking deregulation. And you have Tillis on the right blocking everyone until the DOJ backs off Powell.
That sounds like absolute chaos. It's a mess.
It is chaos. And in finance, chaos has a price.
A premium.
We call it the governance risk premium. Or, if you want to be blunt, the chaos tax. Investors are looking at the U.S. and saying, you guys look like a banana republic right now. If you want me to lend you money for 30 years, you have to pay me extra.
And that extra is why my rates are going up.
That extra is why mortgage rates are rising, even though the latest inflation data looked okay.
But it's not all bad news for Warsh. Right? I did see that America's credit unions endorsed him. That has to count for something. That's a big group.
That's the nuance, you see. The credit unions endorsed him on February 2nd. Why? Because they want relief from the Basel Endgame.
The new capital rules.
The very strict capital rules. They see Warsh as a guy who understands that all these regulations are choking community lending. So you have this split. The political chaos is driving rates up because of the uncertainty. But a huge part of the financial industry is secretly cheering for him because they want deregulation. It's a tug of war.
And meanwhile, the economists are freaking out.
The PhDs are losing their minds, absolutely spitting nails. You have guys like Aaron Klein at the Brookings Institution pointing out that Warsh isn't an economist.
The model smarts argument.
Exactly. They say he lacks model smarts. They fear he won't know what to do in a complex crisis because he doesn't rely on the econometric models that have guided the Fed for decades.
And the advisors, the actual money managers.
They worry about street smarts versus model smarts. But here's the ground truth, what you need to understand. The bond market isn't waiting for the debate to end. It's pricing in a Warsh premium right now.
Meaning they expect him to be hawkish.
They expect him to shrink the balance sheet. Quantitative tightening, which mechanically pushes longer-term yields up. So while you were learning about compliance and closing the Miller file, the 10-year Treasury was spiking because the market realized the Fed is about to change its entire religion.
Okay, so political chaos drives rates up. I get that. Uncertainty equals risk. But let's look at the actual numbers for a second. The Fed just met.
It did.
The FOMC voted to hold rates steady, 3.50% to 3.75%. That was January 28th. Powell himself said the economy is solid. So why is my pricing engine showing rates getting worse every single morning? If the Fed is holding and the economy is solid, why are mortgages exploding?
Because the link is broken.
Broken how?
Or at least it's being stretched until it snaps. You're assuming mortgage rates move in lockstep with the Fed funds rate.
Well, they usually do, more or less.
Usually they dance to the same music. Right
Yeah.
now, the Fed is playing a waltz and the bond market is moshing to heavy metal.
You mentioned something in the notes you pushed across the table earlier. The convexity vortex. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It sounds sci-fi, but it's the scariest math in the world right now for anyone with a mortgage.
Okay, break it down for me.
Let me break it down for you so you can explain it to your clients, because they are going to ask why rates are 6.5% when the news says inflation is down.
That's the question I get every day.
Okay. When an investor buys a bond, usually they know how long it lasts. A 10-year treasury lasts 10 years. Simple.
Right.
But a mortgage is weird. The borrower, your client, has the option to pay it off early. They can refinance, they can sell the house and move.
Prepayment risk. That's standard stuff.
Exactly. And the models that price mortgage-backed securities are built on those prepayment assumptions. When rates drop, what does everyone do?
They refinance.
Instantly. The duration of the loan gets really short. The investor gets their money back way sooner than they thought.
Yeah.
But when rates rise, what happens? Like right now.
Nobody refinances. Nobody moves unless they absolutely have to. They stay put. They lock in.
They hunker down. This is the lock-in effect we've been seeing for 2 years. So all these investors, banks, insurance companies, pension funds who bought mortgage-backed securities thinking they were 4 or 5 year assets suddenly realize they are holding 10, 12, maybe 15-year assets.
Their money is tied up for way longer.
Their duration just extended massively without them doing anything. They are stuck holding that paper way, way longer than they planned.
Okay, so they're stuck holding the loan longer. I get that part. But why does that crash the market? Why does that make my rates go up today?
Because these big institutions have very strict risk limits. They have entire departments dedicated to managing duration risk. They can't just sit there and hold all that extra unexpected risk.
So they have to hedge it.
They have to hedge it. And how do you hedge against owning a bunch of long-term debt that is losing value because rates are rising?
You sell other long-term debt.
You sell other long-term debt. You short the 10-year treasury. It's the most liquid way to do it.
And when thousands of these big players all sell treasuries at the same time.
The price of treasuries falls, which means the interest rate goes up.
And when the 10-year treasury yield goes up, mortgage rates go up.
You got it. And now here's the vortex part. When mortgage rates go up, what happens?
Even fewer people refinance.
Right. Which extends the duration of those mortgage-backed securities even more, which forces the banks to sell more treasuries to hedge, which pushes rates higher.
It's a dune loop.
It is a vortex. It sucks everything down into a spiral of higher rates. That is why the 10-year treasury spiked to 4.26% on February 1st. It wasn't just inflation news or whoosh. It was this massive technical selling pressure.
So the machine is kind of breaking itself.
The convexity vortex creates a floor under rates, a very high floor. Even if Powell tried to cut rates tomorrow, this technical selling pressure, this desperate need to hedge, would keep mortgage rates stubbornly high.
That's terrifying.
It should be.
Because my clients are all sitting on the sidelines saying, I'll just wait for the Fed to cut rates later this year. That is the #1 objection I hear every single day. I'm waiting for 5%. I'm waiting for the March cut.
And that brings us to the biggest reality check of the week. While your clients are dreaming of 5%, JP Morgan just poured a bucket of ice water on the entire world. Did you see the note from Michael Feroli?
The Global Research Note from February 4th. Yeah, I saw the headline.
February 4th, JP Morgan, the bank that sees more transaction data than anyone else on Earth, the bank that practically is the U.S. economy, is now officially predicting 0 rate cuts for the entirety of 2026.
0. Not 1.
0.
But wait, Goldman Sachs is still predicting a cut in March. I read their report too. How can they be so far apart?
That's the forecast fog. That's the confusion in the market right now. Goldman is guessing. Goldman is looking at their models and hoping, that inflation just magically fades away.
And JP Morgan.
JP Morgan is looking at the actual bank accounts of American businesses and consumers and saying, guys, the economy isn't slowing down. Unemployment is stabilizing at 4.4%. Growth is robust. And the neutral rate R star has risen.
Explain R star again. I hear it all the time, but I feel like nobody actually defines it in simple terms.
Think of R star as the Goldilocks interest rate. It's the theoretical rate where the economy is neither speeding up with inflation nor slowing down into recession. It's perfectly balanced.
Okay.
For the last decade after the financial crisis, we all thought R star was essentially zero. You needed free money just to keep the economy from collapsing.
Right.
JP Morgan is saying that era is gone. They believe the new neutral rate is much higher. If the economy is growing just fine with the Fed funds rate at 3.75%, why on earth would the Fed cut?
They wouldn't. If they cut when the economy is already growing, it would just pour gasoline on the fire and cause massive inflation.
Precisely. So if JP Morgan is right, and there are 0 cuts in 2026, and your client is waiting for a cut to buy, what happens to them?
They wait forever, or at least all year.
They wait forever. And while they wait, prices don't crash. They just lose another year of amortization, another year of equity buildup. Your clients are betting against the house, and JP Morgan is the house.
Well, wait, what about the dissent? Didn't Governors Mirren and Waller vote for a cut at the last FOMC meeting? So there's some hope there.
A glimmer, a fracture. Yes, you're right. Mirren and Waller dissented. They are the growth doves. They see the cracks forming in the economy and they're getting nervous. But the majority, the hawks, held the line.
And Powell?
Powell is data dependent until the bitter end. He refused to comment on Warsh, refused to resign over the subpoena. He is going to serve his term, and his position is that the economy is solid, which means higher for longer is the law of the land until summer at the very, very least.
Okay, so rates are high and likely staying high because of Warsh, the chaos tax, and this convexity vortex. The mortgage market is technically broken.
Yeah.
But as long as people can still get loans, the market functions, right? It's just expensive.
Expensive is one thing. Unavailable is another thing entirely.
What do you mean unavailable?
You're worried about the price of the water. I'm telling you, the pipes are about to burst. We need to talk about silver.
Oh, come on. We're mortgage bankers. Why do I care about silver prices? I don't lend on jewelry. I don't do pawn shop loans. What does that have to do with anything?
You care because silver is the canary in the coal mine for the global banking system.
The canary in the coal mine. Okay.
Look at what happened on January 31st and then again on February 5th. Silver didn't just dip, it crashed. Some reports say 27%, some say 33% in a single trading session.
That sounds like a flash crash.
Yeah.
Some algorithm went haywire.
Algorithms don't dump 33% of a physical commodity unless there is forced liquidation behind it. When you see a move that violent, that sudden, it means a major player, a sovereign wealth fund, a massive hedge fund, was tapped on the shoulder by their bank and told, you need to come up with billions in cash right now.
A margin call.
A massive system-shaking margin call. And when you need cash instantly, you don't sell your illiquid assets. You can't sell an office building in an hour.
You sell what you can.
You sell what's liquid. You
Yeah.
sell silver. You sell gold. You sell Bitcoin. The silver crash is a fire alarm. It's a signal that there is a dollar shortage in global plumbing.
A dollar shortage. Seriously.
Yeah.
After they printed trillions of them, how can we possibly be short dollars?
We're awash in debt, not dollars. There is a scramble for high-quality collateral to borrow against. This is what a liquidity shock looks like in the early stages.
Okay, so connect the dots for me. Why does a hedge fund in Singapore having a bad day affect my client in New Jersey?
Here is why you, the mortgage loan officer, need to care. When liquidity dries up, banks get scared. They stop trusting each other. And when they stop trusting each other, what's the first thing they do?
They pull back.
They tighten the credit box. They stop lending to the fringe borrowers.
They stop lending to anyone who isn't a perfect 800 score, 50% down borrower.
Exactly. We are looking at a potential credit crunch. So you're a client who has a 680 credit score and 5% down. Today, he's approved. Tomorrow, if this liquidity shock spreads, that program is gone. Poof. Vanished.
So the risk isn't just, can I afford the rate?
The risk is, will the bank even pick up the phone when I call? As the old saying goes, get your bucket in the river before the water shuts off.
And it's not just the market doing this. The regulators are playing games too, right? I saw the UK delayed Basel III.
They did. January 20th, the Bank of England officially said, we're delaying the trading book rules until 2028, pushing it way down the road.
And the US.
The U.S. is still pushing forward, albeit with some of its own delays to 2027. But the key is, we're not aligned.
Is it's regulatory arbitrage.
Massive arbitrage. If London has looser capital rules than New York, where do you think the capital is going to flow?
To London.
It's the Sell America trade. It's already happening. Global investors are looking at our political chaos, our debt, which is 140% of GDP, by the way, something the IMF warned about back in November, and our increasingly strict regulations. And they're reducing their exposure to U.S. treasuries.
So the money leaves the country.
The money leaves. And when the money leaves, what do we have to do to bribe it to come back?
Raise rates.
Raise rates. It's the macro squeeze. Rates are up because of domestic policy, and they're also being pulled up because of global liquidity fears and capital flight. It's a two-front war.
All right, so we've got high rates and tight money. But surely inflation is coming down. I mean, gas is cheaper. Well, actually, gas ticked up recently. But the general narrative is that inflation is beaten.
The narrative is wrong. It's a fantasy. We're walking into a buzzsaw of structural inflation. Pass me some more of that bread.
Here.
Thank you. Section 4, this is the macro squeeze. And this is where the Greenland stuff comes in.
I have to admit, when I saw Greenland sovereignty in the news, I thought it was a joke. I thought the president wanted to buy the island again.
It's not a joke. It's not about buying land. It's a toll booth.
A toll booth. Explain.
The administration is threatening tariffs on Arctic trade routes. The ice is melting. New shipping lanes are opening up. They call it Greenland sovereignty, but what it really is about is taxing goods flowing from Europe and China through those northern routes to get to us.
And tariffs are?
Inflationary. Always and forever. A tariff is a tax that the consumer pays. If we put a tariff on shipping, the price of your refrigerator, your lumber, your electronics, it all goes up.
So it's cost-push inflation.
Exactly. It's not because demand is hot, it's because the cost of getting the goods here just spiked. And it's permanent.
And China isn't helping, are they? I read something about them ending involution. It's a strange word.
Involution. That's
yeah.
the buzzword of the year in economics. It basically means destructive internal price wars. For 20 years, China subsidized their factories to undercut everyone else in the world.
So we got cheap stuff.
We imported cheap deflation. We got cheap TVs, cheap clothes, cheap steel. It was great for consumers.
And it kept our own CPI low.
It was a massive anchor on global inflation. Now, they've announced a policy change. They said no more. They are focusing on quality and profit margins. They are ending the price wars.
So the era of importing cheap goods from Asia is over.
Over. Stuff will cost more, period.
And that's why the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is so sticky. It's at 2.7%, right? It can't seem to get down to that 2% target.
Sticky at 2.7%. But you have to look closer. Services inflation is stuck at 3%. That's the last mile problem you hear economists talk about.
The last mile is the hardest.
It's impossible. Getting from 3% to 2% is impossible when you have new tariffs, massive fiscal spending from the government, and rising wages.
So if inflation is stuck at 3%, and I'm holding cash in a savings account making 4%, after I pay taxes on that interest, I'm basically breaking even or losing.
You're losing money every single day. This is the inflation illusion. You think you're safe in cash, but your purchasing power is eroding every single year in real terms. But if you borrow...
If I borrow at a fixed rate, I freeze my housing costs.
Exactly. If inflation stays at 3%, the real value of that debt you owe decreases every single year. You are paying back the bank with cheaper and cheaper dollars over time.
So in an inflationary world, the borrower wins.
The borrower with a fixed-rate asset wins, the saver loses. That's the fundamental rule.
But there's another inflation factor you mentioned, the AI energy tax. What is that?
This is the hidden one. No one's talking about it yet, but they will be. Oil jumped to $65 a barrel recently on geopolitical tension. Fine. But the real story is artificial intelligence.
AI? How?
AI data centers are electricity hogs. They are sucking the grid dry. In the D.C. area, residential utility bills are up 18% year over year.
Wait, my electric bill goes up because Microsoft is building a data center 50 miles away.
Yes. We all share the same grid. These chips require massive, unbelievable amounts of power and cooling. We are rebuilding our entire national energy grid to power the AI revolution, and you, the homeowner, are paying for it via your monthly utility bill. We call it greenflation or the AI tax.
So energy costs are up, goods are up, tariffs are up. That sounds like a recipe for
stagflation,
yeah.
Or at least very persistent, annoying inflation. And if oil spikes and hits $80, the Fed cannot cut rates, period. End of story.
Which means a mortgage becomes a hedge.
A mortgage is a hedge against rising energy and living costs because it locks in the single biggest line item in your budget for 30 years.
Which brings us finally to the house itself. Section 5, the housing reality. Because despite all this macro gloomorsh, silver tariffs people still need to live somewhere.
The meat and potatoes, or the Brazil in this case. You can finish that last piece of bread.
Go ahead. So JP Morgan, the same people who said zero rate cuts, also predicted 0% national home price growth in 2026.
0%. Flat as a pancake.
That sounds bad. My clients are going to hear that and say, why would I buy an asset that isn't growing? I'll just rent and wait for the crash. That's the logical conclusion.
That's because they're thinking like stock traders, not homeowners. They're looking at a ticker symbol, not a place to live.
So how should they look
But
at it?
Johnny, listen to me. This is the zero growth window. For the last 10 years, what have buyers been screaming about?
Prices are running away from me. I can't save a down payment fast enough.
Exactly. Every month, the house they wanted got $5,000 more expensive. It was a nightmare. Now, for the first time in a decade, prices have stopped to tie their shoes. It's a pause. It's a gift.
A gift of time.
A gift of time. You can actually look at a house, go home, think about it, and it will still be there tomorrow at the same price. You can negotiate, you can ask for repairs, you can breathe.
And the Realtor.com data you showed me.
That data says real home prices, when you adjust for that 3% inflation we talked about, are actually declining. That improves affordability without a nominal price crash that ruins the whole economy. It's the softest landing housing could hope for.
But inventory is rising. Active listings are up 8.9%. Doesn't that mean a crash is coming? Supply and demand?
That's not a flood, that's the thaw. It's the move-up buyers finally capitulating, people who have been clinging to that 3% mortgage rate for 4 years. Eventually, life wins.
What do you mean life wins?
Divorce, a new job in another state, triplets. They literally cannot live in the 2-bedroom condo anymore. They are finally being forced to list their homes.
So we have more supply coming on the market.
We have more supply, yes. And at the same time, we have less competition. Remember Executive Order 14376?
The BlackRock ban. Is that still in effect?
The temporary ban on institutional investors buying up single-family homes. The sharks are out of the pool. It is a rare, maybe once-in-a-generation window where regular families can buy a home without competing against a $50 billion Wall Street cash offer.
But affordability is still the main issue. Rates are volatile, 6.11% on a good day. Most people can't make that math work.
That's why you have to pivot. That's why you look at the new homes. Date the builder.
New home sales are up 18.7%.
Yeah.
I saw that. It seems counterintuitive.
It's not counterintuitive at all. It's because builders are doing the math. They have huge profit margins from the last few years. They are using those margins to buy down the mortgage rate for their buyers to 5.5%, sometimes lower.
The shadow rate cut.
They are offering a shadow rate cut that the Fed won't give you. An existing home seller who's just a regular family can't compete with that math. They can't afford to subsidize the buyer's mortgage. The builder can.
But I saw in the data that new building permits are falling.
That's the danger. That's the other side of the coin. Housing starts are up now to finish existing projects, but permits for future projects are down.
So a supply cliff is coming?
A massive supply cliff is coming in 2027. If you don't buy the inventory we have now, there might not be any new inventory coming online in 18 months because the builders themselves are pulling back due to their own high financing costs. The window is now.
And what about rents? Rents are flat.
The rent trap. This is the most dangerous part. Rents are stagnant, which makes people feel comfortable and complacent. They think, oh, my rent isn't going up, I'll just wait another year.
Reaction.
Inaction. And meanwhile, build-to-rent communities are popping up on every corner of this country.
The subscription model for housing.
Exactly. These giant corporations are permanently removing homes from the purchase market and turning them into a perpetual rental class. If you don't buy a deed now, you might be renting from a hedge fund for the rest of your life. Flat rents lull you into inaction while the asset class is slowly being privatized away from you.
Wow, okay. That's a lot. Let's just try to recap this. We've done Horizon Scan, and it is flashing red warnings everywhere I look.
Let's sum it up. The bear steepener curve and JP Morgan's call say rates aren't dropping. Why? Because the economy is too strong and our national debt is too high.
Okay, rates high and staying high.
The silver crash says liquidity is getting tight and credit could vanish for anyone who isn't a perfect borrower.
Credit crunch risk. Got it.
Tariffs, energy costs, and government debt all say that inflation is structural. It's not going away. It's part of the system now.
Sticky inflation.
And housing itself is in a temporary stall at 0% growth, which is a rare buying opportunity.
So what's the final verdict? Is it a good time to buy or a bad time to buy? It sounds like both.
The verdict is that this combination of factors defines opportunity for the informed, but it defines fear for the retail buyer.
Explain that.
The average retail buyer sees 6% rates and flat prices and gets scared. They run for the hills. The informed buyer sees a window to secure a hard asset in an inflationary world without competing against Wall Street, all while using the builder's money to buy down the rate.
So you buy the asset when it's sleeping, not when it's sprinting.
You buy when there's blood in the streets. This is the moment. It should be scary. If you aren't a little scared right now, you aren't paying attention. But fear paralyzes people. Strategy mobilizes them.
So what's the strategy then? We understand the danger now. We've mapped the terrain. What's the move?
Now that you see the trap, we need to talk about the escape. We need to talk about liquidity arbitrage.
Liquidity arbitrage.
How to use the $38 trillion national debt as a teammate instead of an enemy. And we need to talk about the regulatory moat, how to get your clients approved before Basel III and those new credit card caps slam the door shut for good on marginal borrowers.
That sounds like a whole other conversation.
That sounds like dessert. There's cannoli in the fridge from this morning. Go get them, clear the table, we've got work to do.
Pass me that saucer, would you? Pour yourself another one.
Oh, I don't know if we should.
That's it. Dark roast, straight from the mocha pot. You see that steam. That's the only thing clearing my sinuses after that meal.
I am full. I mean, I am physically unable to consume another bite of anything, but yeah, the caffeine is necessary. My head is still spinning a bit.
Good.
That first half of dinner, the Bear Steepner conversation, we really went dark there. The idea that the bond market has basically, I don't know, canceled the Fed's ability to lower rates. It's heavy stuff.
It's supposed to be heavy. Look, we established the danger during the main course. That was the whole point. We talked about the trap.
Right.
We went through that JP Morgan forecast, the one predicting 0 rate cuts for all of 2026. 0.
Which still sounds insane to me, but their logic was sound.
It is sound. And we talked about asset stagnation, where prices are just flat, stuck. But the inventory is tighter than a drum.
Yeah.
That was the scared straight portion of the evening. But fear without a plan is just anxiety, kid. And I don't pay you to be anxious.
You pay me to be a strategist.
I pay you to be a strategist.
Yeah.
You see the trap, you find the escape hatch.
Right. The trap in the window. You said there's a way out. But honestly, looking at the notes I took during the antipasto, I mean, high rates, a government that's basically broke, 0 appreciation.
It feels like the walls are closing in.
They are closing in. But a window is useless if you don't have the money to climb through it, or if the government slams it on your fingers before you can even move. Now that the plates are cleared, we talk about the money, talk about the grand scheme. This isn't about selling a rate. If you try to sell a rate in this market, you will starve. This is about ensuring solvency. It's about making sure the families that trust us don't end up on the wrong side of history.
Solvency. I like that word. It's bigger than just a mortgage.
It's everything. So tonight we're going to cover 3 pillars: fiscal dominance, the regulatory moat, and lifestyle arbitrage. You ready to take some real notes? Not just doodles on the napkin? Pen is in hand, napkin is fresh. Let's start with this fiscal dominance idea. You mentioned it earlier as the reason why inflation isn't going away, but I feel like we've kind of glossed over the mechanics.
We did. We were too busy eating lasagna. But look, do you think the national debt is just a number you see on a screen on cable news? Like it's a scoreboard in a game?
I mean, it's a big number, scary number.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel abstract. It doesn't feel like it affects my Tuesday morning.
It is not abstract. It is a physical force. It's like gravity. As of this week, the U.S. national debt has breached $38.43 trillion.
38.43. Wow.
That's a T trillion. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, they issued a warning literally days ago. They didn't say, be careful. They didn't say, this is concerning. They used the word unsustainable.
Unsustainable.
They're projecting our debt-to-GDP ratio is heading to 140%.
I mean, when the IMF warns a developing nation, like Argentina or somewhere, that's one thing. That's just a normal Tuesday for them. But when they warn the United States, the issuer of the global reserve currency, that feels different. That feels like an endgame signal.
It is an endgame signal.
Yeah.
And in that endgame, the government has exactly 2 choices. Only 2. Choice A is default.
Which is impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
They tell the bondholders, sorry, China, sorry, Japan, sorry to your grandma's pension fund, we can't pay you. That destroys the entire global financial system.
Yeah.
Instantly. It's Mad Max.
Yeah.
So you can rule that out. It's not happening.
Okay, so default is off the table. which leaves.
That leaves choice B, inflate. They print the money to pay the debt. They dilute the currency to make the debt easier to service.
Which devalues every single dollar in everyone's pocket, in
Right.
everyone's savings account.
Exactly. This has a name. It's called financial repression. You need to understand this mechanism because it's the absolute foundation of the advice we give.
Financial repression. So what is the strategy there?
The strategy is to keep interest rates below the real rate of inflation. So let's say real inflation is 5%. They'll try to keep the interest they pay on bonds at, say, 3%.
So there's a gap.
There's a gap. And in that gap, they're secretly, quietly burning off the real value of their debt. The government needs inflation. They might get on TV and say they're fighting it, but mathematically, they need inflation to run hotter than the interest they pay.
So they're stealing value from savers.
That's it. They steal the value from savers to pay off their own mistakes.
So if I'm the responsible guy, the person putting cash under the mattress or in a low-yield savings account,
You are the victim. You're the patsy in this whole scheme. A saver is bailing out the government by holding a currency that is actively, deliberately being diluted. You're working for dollars that are worth less every single day you hold them. So tell me, what is the opposite of a saver?
a debtor.
A debtor. But, and this is the key, not just any debtor. You don't want to be a debtor on a credit card with a 28% variable rate that moves up with inflation.
No, that's a trap.
That's a death spiral. You want to be a debtor with a fixed-rate asset. When you get a 30-year fixed mortgage, you are effectively becoming the government's teammate. You're aligning your personal balance sheet with Uncle Sam's.
Because we both have this massive fixed-rate debt.
Precisely. You both have massive debt, and you both plan to pay it back with cheaper inflated dollars in the future.
I see.
Think about it. You borrow $500,000 today. That money buys a house, a real physical thing. In 10 years, if the government inflates the currency by 50% to save itself, a loaf of bread costs $10 and wages are hopefully higher, but your debt,
It's still just $500,000.
it's still $500,000.
Yeah.
In real terms, the value of that debt has been cut in half. You've effectively been paid to borrow money.
So the pitch isn't just get into debt because you need a place to sleep. The pitch is short the dollar.
That's the finance degree talking, but yes, that is exactly what you're doing. You are shorting the dollar. You are making a calculated bet that $38 trillion of debt forces the government to print money.
And you're betting that the renter is going to lose.
The renter is the ultimate victim here. They're paying current market rates, which reset higher every single year with inflation. You, on the other hand, you locked in a price in 2026 dollars. The renter pays the inflation. The homeowner profits from it.
Okay, that makes perfect sense on a macro level. But wait a minute. If we're betting so hard on this massive inflation, why are prices on some things? Well, kind of stable. I was at Best Buy yesterday, and TVs are cheap. Electronics haven't skyrocketed yet.
Yeah,
If inflation is the only way out, why isn't everything expensive now?
yet is the key word.
Yeah.
You're looking in the rearview mirror. You need to look at the new drivers of inflation that aren't in the system yet. Have you been watching the trade news? The stuff about the Greenland tariff?
I saw the headlines, something about new trade routes opening up in the Arctic. It sounded more like, I don't know, geopolitical posturing than anything real.
It is not posturing, it's geography. It's physics. Look, the ice is melting. That opens up shipping lines that have never existed before, shorter routes between Asia and Europe.
Right, the Northwest Passage.
And the current administration is pivoting the whole trade war to the Arctic. They are threatening tariffs on literally everything that passes through those waters. This isn't a temporary spat over soybeans. This is a structural change in global logistics. Think of Greenland as a new toll booth on the world supply chain.
A toll booth on what, specifically? What comes through there?
Everything. Lumber, electronics, furniture, raw materials, the stuff you put inside a house, the stuff you use to build a house. If that route gets taxed, and it will, the cost of those goods doesn't go up by 2%, it goes up by 20%.
Well, that's a massive cost-push inflation event just waiting to happen.
Massive. And it combines with what's happening in China. We need to talk about anti-involution.
Okay, involution. I've heard that term. It's what they call the insane, intense internal competition in China, right? The race to the bottom on price.
It's exactly right. For 20 years, China exported deflation to us. They had factories fighting each other to the death to produce the cheapest possible widget. That's what you could buy a toaster for $9 and a flat-screen TV for $200. That policy was involution. They kept prices down to capture global market share. Well, guess what?
They're stopping.
They just announced the end of it. I read that report from Franklin Templeton. They're pivoting to quality over quantity. They're stopping the price wars to protect their own industries and their own margins.
The era of the $5 toaster is over.
It is over. The era of China exporting deflation to the U.S. is finished. Stuff is going to structurally, permanently cost more, not because of demand, but because the supplier has decided to stop subsiding our lifestyle.
So if you're buying a home today,
You are buying it at duty-free prices. You are locking in the cost of the materials, the copper, the wood, the glass, the drywall, before the Greenland tariffs and the end of Chinese deflation spike the replacement cost of that house into the stratosphere.
that's a fascinating way to frame it. You aren't just buying a house, you're buying a warehouse of commodities before the price hike.
You are hedging against the cost of the physical world. But there's another hidden tax coming that nobody is talking about on the nightly news. The AI energy tax.
The AI energy tax. I saw that report about utility bills rising. My own bill was up last month, actually. I just thought I left the heat on too long.
It wasn't just you. It wasn't just the thermostat. Listen to me. These data centers for artificial intelligence are sucking the grid dry.
I read a single ChatGPT query. It takes, 10 times the energy of a Google search?
10 times. And we are building these massive server farms all over the country. They need power. Gigawatts of power. The utilities have to build trillions of dollars of new infrastructure to support them. New power plants, new transmission lines. Who do you think pays for that?
Not Microsoft, not Google.
No way. They negotiate bulk rates. The ratepayers pay. Us. You.
They pass the costs on to residential consumers.
Correct. We are seeing utility bills rise 18% in some metros, and it is just the beginning. So here's the hedge. When you buy a modern, energy-efficient home, something with good insulation, maybe it's solar ready, maybe it has upgraded windows, you are building a personal shield against this rising fixed cost.
Whereas a renter in an old, leaky apartment building just has to eat that 18% hike. And the next one.
Yeah.
And the one after that.
They eat it every single month, forever. Your housing expense isn't just the mortgage principal and interest anymore. It's the lights, the heat, the cooling. The grand scheme is about controlling your fixed costs in a world where all the variable costs are exploding.
And if you're renting a drafty box, your AI tax is going to be higher than your car payment pretty soon.
It absolutely will. Now, speaking of exploding costs, oil.
Yeah, it jumped to $65 a barrel this week.
And it's heading higher. Oil is the master switch of inflation. When oil goes up, everything goes up. Food, transport, plastics, everything. The tensions in the Middle East combined with this new Greenland mess. It's a powder keg. If oil hits $80 or $90, the Fed cannot cut rates. They might even have to hike again.
That's the nightmare scenario. Rates going up while the economy slows. Stagflation.
Which brings us back to the de-dollarization fears. I saw that Sell American note in the bond market update. Foreign investors are dumping treasuries.
They're dumping our paper assets. So when the world loses faith in the dollar because of that $38 trillion debt load, they sell our bonds.
Which does what to our interest rates?
Drives them up. Less demand for bonds means the seller, the U.S. Treasury, has to offer a higher yield to attract buyers.
Correct. But ask yourself this. Where does that money go? When a Saudi sovereign wealth fund sells $1 billion in U.S. treasuries, do they just put the cash in a mattress?
No, they have to deploy it somewhere else.
They buy hard assets, gold, land, real estate. Specifically U.S. real estate. It's seen as a safe haven.
So wait, foreign capital flight from our bonds actually supports U.S. home prices. That seems so counterintuitive.
That is the paradox of the modern economy. It supports the asset value while hurting the interest rate. It makes borrowing more expensive because they're selling bonds, but it keeps the home value high or even pushes it higher because they are turning around and buying the physical asset.
That's twisted.
It's the world we live in. If you wait, you get the high rate anyway, but the price might be even higher because the Saudis and the Europeans are buying up all our dirt to escape their own collapsing currencies.
So the worse the dollar gets, the more valuable the house becomes in dollar terms.
Exactly. So the strategy under fiscal dominance is simple. Don't hold cash. Cash is a melting ice cube. Debt is a shield against inflation. And physical assets protect you from trade wars, energy spikes, and a devaluing currency. You want to be long debt and short cash when the IMF is screaming about sustainability.
Okay, I'm with you. The macro picture is clear, and it's frankly terrifying. We need to buy. But getting that debt, getting the loan, that's about to get a lot harder, isn't it? That brings us to Section 2, the regulatory moat.
This is the part of the conversation that should actually scare you. The access crisis. Most people think the big problem is that rates are 6 or 7%. That's not the problem. The real problem is looming on the horizon. What if you can't get a loan at any rate?
The door just closes.
The door slams shut. Let's talk about this credit card cap proposal.
The 10% interest rate cap. I saw that. Former President Trump announced he supports it. And honestly, when I first heard it, my first reaction was good.
Of course.
Credit card companies charge 25, 30%. It's usury. Capping it at 10% sounds like it helps the little guy.
It sounds great on a bumper sticker. Stop the banks from gouging you. But stop thinking like a consumer for a second. Put on your banker hat. Your cost of funds is 5%. Your operational cost is 2%. And your default risk on unsecured credit card debt is, let's be generous, pretty high. And the government tells you the maximum you can charge is 10%. Do you lend money?
The margin is razor thin. One default wipes out the profit from 10 good customers, so no, you'd stop lending. Or you'd only lend to perfect borrowers.
You wouldn't just stop lending to new people. You would aggressively de-risk your current book of business. You'd look at every single customer with a credit score below 720 and say, this person is too risky for this new margin. You'd look at a guy with a $20,000 credit limit.
You'd slash it.
You would slash it to $2,000 instantly.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about the limit cut. I was only thinking about the rate.
That is the trap. Everyone focuses on the rate. Think about the math. A client has a $5,000 balance on a $20,000 limit. What's their utilization?
25%. Healthy.
25%. That's a healthy ratio. Their score is probably 740. Now, this populist law passes. The bank slashes that limit to $5,000 because they can't charge enough interest to justify the risk of a higher limit. What is their utilization now?
They have a $5,000 balance on a $5,000 limit. 100% utilization.
100%. Their credit score tanks immediately. We are talking a 50 to 100 point drop overnight.
That's catastrophic.
They go from being a prime borrower to unqualified in a single billing cycle. They didn't miss a single payment. They didn't spend a penny more. But the help from the government just destroyed their ability to get a mortgage.
That kills the pipeline. It just decimates it.
It kills the borrower's future.
Yeah.
You need to explain this to your clients. They need to lock their mortgage before this so-called help ruins their credit profile. They need to secure the loan while their score is 740, because in 6 months, that same exact borrower might be a 640 and I can't touch them.
That is a massive, massive unintended consequence. It just destroys liquidity for the entire middle class.
Liquidity destruction is the theme of 2026 and 2027. Which brings us to the Basel III Endgame.
The capital requirements for banks. But didn't they delay it to 2027? I remember reading that and thinking, okay, we have some breathing room.
They did delay it. And that delay is a gift. You need to see it for what it is. A regulatory sale. A going out of business sale on credit access.
Just explain that. What do you mean a sale?
Right now, today, banks are overcapitalized relative to the rules that will kick in next year. They have money to lend under the old, looser rules. They're still writing jumbos. They are still doing non-QM loans for self-employed people. But come January 1st, 2027, the drawbridge starts to lift.
Can you explain the mechanism? Why does Basel III make them stop lending? What does it actually do?
It's all about risk weighting. Basel III increases the amount of capital a bank has to hold in reserve against what they classify as risky assets. And guess what they now classify as a much riskier asset?
Let me guess. A mortgage.
A mortgage with less than 20% down. A mortgage to a self-employed person with variable income. A mortgage on an investment property. All the stuff that makes up the bulk of our business. Starting in 2027, holding your mortgage on their books becomes more expensive for the bank.
So they'll do one of two things. They'll either charge much higher rates to offset that capital cost, or they'll just stop offering those products altogether.
Exactly. And you have to look at the global picture. The UK delayed their version of these rules to 2028. That creates what they call regulatory arbitrage.
So capital will flow to the path of least resistance.
A U.S. bank, which is a global corporation, might look at the map and say, why should we lend in the U.S. where the capital rules are strict and getting stricter? Let's just move our capital to our London office for a year where the rules are looser. We could see a capital flight where U.S. banks just retreat from the mortgage market entirely.
So we are in this weird window of access right now that might not exist in 12 months.
It's closing from all sides, even for the self-employed. I've been seeing more requests for tax transcripts lately from underwriters. They're getting really picky.
The gig economy audit is real then?
It's here. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the big Trump tax cuts, they expire next year. The IRS has new, lower reporting thresholds for Venmo, for PayPal, for everything. You know that client who makes $100 grand a year as a freelancer but writes off everything so his tax return shows $20,000 of income?
The bank statement client, yeah, I know him well.
The era of being poor to the IRS and rich to the bank is ending. The data sharing between the government and the banks is too good now. We have to tell our self-employed clients, lock your loan now while your 2024 and 2025 returns are still viable. If they wait until they have to file under the new, stricter IRS regime, their qualifying income might be cut in half. They won't qualify for anything.
And then there's the tax cliff itself. Even for regular W-2 employees, taxes are going up for the upper middle class in 2026 when those tax cuts expire.
Which is painful, but it creates a mathematical opportunity for us. It makes the mortgage interest deduction more valuable.
Wait, hold on, I want to push back on that a little. The standard deduction is huge now. Does the mortgage interest deduction even matter for a normal family anymore? Are we just selling them a tax break they can't actually use?
That's a fair pushback, and for some people,
Yeah.
you're right. For a married couple taking the $20-something thousand standard deduction, maybe it's a wash today. But we are talking about the grand scheme here. We're looking ahead.
Okay.
If taxes rise across the board, and there's talk the standard deduction might revert, or at least stagnate, then itemizing becomes the game again. If your tax bracket goes from 24% to 28%, the value of every dollar you can deduct goes up. The government is effectively offering to subsidize a larger portion of your housing cost via the tax code.
So a mortgage becomes a tax shelter again.
It becomes one of the last and best tax shelters available to the middle class. You'd rather pay interest to the bank and get a write-off than pay that same money in non-deductible taxes to the IRS and get nothing back.
So we position the house as a tax shield against the TCJA expiration. Okay, I see the angle. That makes sense.
But here is the one that really keeps me up at night. The one that nobody is prepared for. The uninsurable map.
Insurance redlining. This is the Florida problem, right?
Hurricanes. It used to be the Florida problem. Now it's the California problem with wildfires, the Colorado problem with hail, the Midwest problem with tornadoes, the Northeast with flooding. It's not just redlining anymore. It's total abandonment. Insurers are moving from the old model of risk pooling, where everyone in a state shares the cost, to a new model of risk segregation.
How are they able to do that? How are they segregating it?
AI. They are using satellite imagery, drone data, and predictive AI models to pinpoint risk down to the individual roof. They are not looking at a zip code anymore. They are looking at your specific trees, your specific shingles, the exact grade of your property. They are creating insurance deserts on the map.
I had a client in Florida whose premium went up 50% last week. 50. He was furious.
50% is lucky. Some people are just getting non-renewed entirely. No offer at any price.
Yeah.
And here is the link to the mortgage. If you can't get homeowners insurance, you can't get a mortgage, period. The lender will not fund the loan.
Of course not. It's unsecured collateral at that point.
We are looking at a very near future where there are safe zones on the map and dead zones. Securing a home now is about securing your spot on the map while it's still insurable. Before the lines get redrawn by an algorithm in Hartford and you find out the affordable house you wanted is in a dead zone and you can never own it.
That brings a whole new meaning to location, location, location. Insurability, insurability, insurability.
It is the single biggest hidden risk in the real estate market today. So, do you see the picture? The credit card trap kills your score. Basel III kills the bank's appetite to lend. The IRS kills your income qualification. And the insurance companies kill the collateral itself. The regulatory moat is filling with alligators. You need to get inside the castle now.
Okay, I'm seeing the urgency. Wow. It's not about the rate. It's about getting the money at all. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the payment. Because even if they get inside the castle, the rent or the mortgage is damn high. Solvency matters. We can't just put people in homes that they can't afford.
Solvency is everything. And this is Section 3, lifestyle and liquidity arbitrage. We have to sit down at the kitchen table and do the real math. Not the debt-to-income ratios for the bank, but the real money in, money out for the family.
And the biggest line item I'm seeing on those budgets right now isn't the car. It isn't the groceries. It's the kids.
The childcare mortgage. That's what it is. I saw the data this morning. The average cost of childcare in this country is now $17,836 a year. Per kid.
Per kid.
That is insane. That is literally a mortgage payment.
That is a brand new Honda Accord every single year that you drive off a cliff into a daycare center. And here is the kicker. You can't finance a baby. You pay that 17 grand in cash. Post-tax cash.
So how does a mortgage help with that? I mean, if the mortgage is high and childcare is high, aren't we just drowning them in payments?
Not if we structure it right. Here's the strategy, and it goes against everything we were taught. We stopped telling people to put 20% down. Wait, really? But 20% down avoids PMI. It lowers the monthly payment. That's standard textbook advice.
It's standard advice for a standard world. We're in the Warsh era. Look, if you put 20% down on a $500,000 house, that is $100,000 cash leaving your pocket. Gone. It's locked in the walls of the house.
Right, it's equity, but it's illiquid.
Very illiquid. Now, your payment is maybe $300 lower. Great. But then the $17,000 daycare bill hits, and the car breaks down, and you have no cash. You are house poor. You're one bad month away from disaster.
So you're saying take the higher payment with PMI.
I'm saying preserve your liquidity, put 5% down, keep the other $75,000 in a high-yield savings account earning 4 or 5%. That cash is oxygen. That is your emergency fund. Use that cash to subsidize the expensive daycare years. Yes, your mortgage payment is higher, but you have a war chest to draw from. You can survive the childcare shock without resorting to 28% credit cards.
That's liquidity arbitrage. You're using the leverage of the mortgage to preserve cash for the unavoidable costs of life.
Yes, and you have to remind them of the rent trap. If you rent, you are paying the landlord's mortgage, and you are paying the baby mortgage. And at the end of the year, you have zero equity to show for it. If you buy, even with a lower down payment, at least one of those massive checks you write every single month is going into your own pocket.
That's a powerful reframe. Don't pay 2 mortgages and get 0 equity.
Now, let's look at where they live. We talked about the AI energy tax and the fact that cities are getting more expensive, but we also have hybrid maturity.
Remote work. It seems like it's finally settled into a 2-day-a-week in-office rhythm for most corporate jobs.
Which completely changes the math of the commute. If you have to drive to the office 5 days a week, a 45-minute commute is hell. It's soul-crushing. It destroys your marriage. But if you only have to do it 2 days a week,
It's manageable.
it's not even a commute. That's a podcast session. That's me time. That's a chance to make a few calls.
So we push the geographic arbitrage.
We push the math, move 45 minutes out to the exurbs. You get 30% more house for the same money. You get a dedicated home office. You get a yard for those kids you're paying so much for. And the cost is driving an extra 90 minutes a week total.
Okay, so what's the math?
If you save $200,000 on the house price by moving out there, and it costs you an extra, let's say, 8 hours of driving a month, you are effectively paying yourself hundreds of dollars an hour to sit in your car and listen to music.
I love that. Get paid $500 an hour to drive. Put that on a slide.
It's just logical, and it solves the solvency issue. You trade a little bit of time for a massive amount of equity and space, but there's one more solvency event we need to be the heroes on.
The record household debt.
$18.59 trillion. Credit cards, auto loans, personal loans. People are drowning in high-interest, variable rate debt.
And with that 10% cap threat we talked about, the banks are going to get really aggressive collecting on that debt before the rules change.
They're going to turn the screws. So here's the play, the debt consolidation refi. Or even on a purchase, we structure it so we use lender credits to pay off their high-interest debt at closing.
You're trading 28% toxic debt for 6.5% tax-deductible mortgage debt.
It's not just about the rate, though. It's about cleansing the balance sheet. Inflation hurts the guy with credit card debt because his variable rate goes up with the Fed. Inflation helps the guy with the mortgage because his fixed rate stays flat. By consolidating, you are literally moving the client from the victim column of the inflation economy to the beneficiary column.
It's a solvency event. You can save them $1,000 a month in cash flow, even if their total mortgage balance goes up a little.
Correct. You save the household from drowning. Now let's talk about the house itself again, the physical structure. We mentioned the Tesla outlet.
The infrastructure of the home.
The grid is destabilizing.
Right.
We know this. AI, heat waves, old infrastructure. Buying a home with upgraded electrical 200-amp service is an asset protection play. If you buy an old, charming house with a 1950s fuse box, you are buying a liability. You can't charge an EV. You can't run a modern heat pump. You're stuck in the past.
So we're selling future-proofing.
We're selling resilience.
Yes.
And finally, the last piece of this lifestyle section. We sell against the bad vibes.
The vibe session. I've been reading about this. Consumer confidence is down 10%, even though unemployment is at 4.4% and people are still spending money. People just feel bad.
They feel bad because prices are high and politics are messy and the news is negative. But bad vibes are a discount coupon for the bold. When sentiment is low, competition is low. You don't have 20 offers on a house anymore. You have 2, maybe 1.
So we advise our clients to act as contrarians.
Always, you tell the client. The data says the economy is strong. The vibes say everyone is sad. When people are sad, they don't go shopping for houses. That is your opportunity. You want to be the happy buyer at the sad seller's open house. You buy the asset when the sentiment is temporarily dislocated from the fundamental reality.
And that connects all the way back to what we said in the first episode, the zero growth year. The bad vibes are what's keeping prices flat right now, giving us a small window to act.
Exactly. You see,
Yeah.
it all connects. The flat prices, the regulatory window, the inflation hedge. It is a single coherent strategy.
Okay, so let's bring it all together then. The grand scheme. What's the final synthesis?
The grand scheme is this. We are entering the Warsh era. It's an era of fiscal dominance, where the government must inflate the debt away. It's an era of regulatory moats, where access to credit becomes a privilege, not a right. And it's an era of structural inflation, where cash is trash and hard assets are king.
So the mission isn't just buy a house, it's so much bigger than that.
No, the mission is liquidity arbitrage. Preserve your cash to survive the childcare years. Secure a fixed payment asset to hedge against the trade wars and the $38 trillion debt bomb. And get inside the regulatory castle before Basel III and the credit caps lift the drawbridge for good in 2027.
We are helping them transition from being consumers who get crushed by inflation to being asset owners who ride the wave of it.
And we stop thinking about timing the Fed. JP Morgan says they won't cut. The bond market says they can't cut. We stop gambling on things we can't control. We start executing on the things we can.
The cost of waiting is higher than the cost of borrowing.
That is the mantra. You have to burn it into their brains. If you wait, you risk losing the price, losing the loan, and losing the insurance. The cost of borrowing is 6%. The cost of waiting is exile.
This is a sobering thought to end on. Exile from the asset class.
It's the reality. We are selling dreams anymore. We are selling life rafts. Now, the lesson is over. Finish your cannoli, wipe that cream off your lip. We start dialing at 8 a.m. sharp.
1 a.m. I'm ready.
Good, because the window is open for now.